Here at Fantasy Endgame, we never stop drafting, and thankfully at Underdog Fantasy, they never stop drafting either. Drafts are underway, real money drafts, by the way, for 2025. I already broke down the 5 running backs that I feel like are the best values in these drafts. Let's do the same thing for wide receivers. Break down the 5 best wide receiver values in fantasy drafts right now. Now, before I get to those picks, if you want to try out some of these drafts on Underdog Fantasy for as little as $3 per draft, just go to UnderdogFantasy.com. Join using promo code ENDGAME, because not only will that get you access to these drafts, but also up to $1,000 in bonus cash plus a free pick. Now, I've talked about a couple of these wide receivers if you watched my top 10 must-have players video, but if you haven't, they'll be new to you. But I've also got some new ones in here, and let's start with Chicago Bears wide receiver Rome Odunze. Now, I will say I think DJ Moore is also a decent value where he's going, but Rome Odunze is going pick 48, wide receiver 26. Now, I get it. He was not one of the top rookie wide receivers last year when we saw some good rookie wide receivers, but I still believe in the talent of Rome Odunze here, but I also believe in the ability of Ben Johnson, new head coach, to get the most out of these players, and we're already hearing talks that maybe they're going to move Rome Odunze into that Amon-Ra St. Brown slot role, and that would be huge for Rome Odunze. We know Keenan Allen is a free agent. Highly doubt they're going to bring Keenan Allen back. That's going to open up that slot role for somebody. Yes, DJ Moore will get some of that role as well, but I think Rome Odunze is going to get the majority of it, the bigger piece of that pie, and that is going to be good because now it's going to give him some chances against easier corners, softer coverage, kind of similar to Jackson Smith and Jigba in Seattle. Remember, as a rookie 2 years ago, did not really produce as a rookie. Last year, they got the most out of him. They found ways to get him going with that new coaching staff, and we saw what he did. Had a breakout year too. I really think that's going to be Rome Odunze this year in this Bears offense. We got to bet on Caleb Williams getting better with Ben Johnson. We got to bet on the offensive line getting better. Like, that's got to be a position of need. You got to think they're going to address it, free agency and the draft. And we just got to think this whole offense as a whole is going to improve. That's going to elevate everybody in this offense, especially Rome Odunze. Again, I think DJ Moore is also a very solid pick where he's going. I just like the value of Rome Odunze a little bit better, and I like the fact that we may see him in that slot role. I think that gives him a clearer path to fantasy goodness in this offense. So I'm really in on, DJ Moore, Rome Odunze, and Caleb Williams this year, but Rome Odunze is the wide receiver I think is the best value. And you've been watching us for the last few years. You're probably tired of me saying how high I am on Chris Olave. Well, I'm sorry, but I'm high on Chris Olave again this year. Currently going pick 55, the wide receiver 31. I understand why. I mean, last year was a lost year. We've never really seen this guy reach his potential, but there are definitely reasons to be encouraged going into 2025. Number one, Kellen Moore, new head coach. You know he's going to probably call the plays here. We know offenses with Kellen Moore as the offensive coordinator have been great for fantasy. Last year with the Eagles, of course. I mean, I know it was Saquon Barkley's show, but the Saints don't have Saquon Barkley. But the year before, CeeDee Lamb in Dallas, we saw him go off. We know Kellen Moore can get good offenses, good fantasy production out of the passing game. And whoever he brings in as the OC, they're going to be in alignment, and he's probably going to have more of the say over the offense. Not to mention, we're hearing the Saints likely to move on from Derek Carr. That means maybe sign one of these vets. Now, it's probably going to be a boring vet like a Russell Wilson and Aaron Rodgers, maybe a Sam Darnold, somebody like that. But while that's not exciting if you're a Saints fan necessarily, it's good for fantasy. We know these guys can support a wide receiver 1 in fantasy. So when you put all that together, and then you take the fact that I still believe Chris Olave is a very talented wide receiver who has just been stuck in bad situations with bad quarterback play, that we still have not seen his potential tapped. There is still a ceiling here that we haven't seen. Now, I know the concerns. I know the risk, and that's the concussions, because these are the kind of things, these are serious things, because if he gets another concussion, it could be another IR stint, maybe a season ender like we saw last year. But I think where he's going this year in drafts, for the upside you're potentially getting, I think it's worth the risk. So I'm going to bet on Chris Olave staying fully healthy, getting a major offensive upgrade, a major QB upgrade, and finally living up to his potential. And then I'm very surprised to see Jalen McMillan going pick 77, wide receiver 42. Now, if you watch my top 10 must-have players, I said Mike Evans. I got to draft Mike Evans. We know what this guy can do year in and year out. But I'm also willing to take the gamble on Jalen McMillan, who had a great second half of the season here after the Chris Godwin injury. A couple things about Chris Godwin. Number one, coming off a major injury, is he even going to be ready week 1? Number 2, is he even going to be a Buccaneer week 1? I mean, we could be looking at Jalen McMillan as a clear number 2 wide receiver in this offense. And I know Liam Cohen is gone, but look, the year before, Dave Canales left and the offense didn't miss a beat. I don't think the offense is going to miss a beat. I believe enough in Baker Mayfield and this offense and this coaching staff to get the most out of these wide receivers and this passing game. And the great thing is the Buccaneers, unless they do something drastic on defense, they don't have a great defense, which means a lot of games, high-scoring games with a lot of throwing the football. Jalen McMillan was a good wide receiver prospect who I liked. He showed very good signs to the end of the last year, the second half of last year. Why can't he build on that going into year 2? And you're getting him again at such a good price here. Wide receiver 42. Like, how bad does Jalen McMillan have to be for him to be a bust at this pick? Like, really bad. I don't think that's going to happen. So give me Jalen McMillan as a steal in fantasy drafts. And give me Jakobi Meyers as a steal in fantasy drafts as well. Pick 82, wide receiver 45. This guy was great last year. In fact, the last 2 years he's been really good, but especially last year after Davante Adams left, he really took over. He was really good week in and week out. And again, there are a lot of things to be encouraged about for the Las Vegas Raiders going into 2025. We know Pete Carroll, new head coach, he's going to change this ship. He's going to right the ship here. He's going to get things going in the right direction. But also, the Raiders, I believe, are like the second team, like the second best team set up to potentially improve this offseason when you look at things like cap space, restructures, and draft capital. Like, the Raiders could have a sneaky good team in 2025. And if they go out and get, again, one of these boring vet quarterbacks, Russell Wilson, Aaron Rodgers, whoever, that is going to be an upgrade for the passing game. And really, what is it? It's Jakobi Meyers, it's Brock Bowers. Now, will they do something drastic at wide receiver? Maybe, but like, are they going to spend money on a free agent wide receiver? Or there's not really a great wide receiver class here. I could see a path where we're going into next season with Jakobi Meyers and Brock Bowers as basically the 1A, 1Bs in this offense again. And once again, Jakobi Meyers just going at a great discount here, who has the potential to be even better than he was last year in this offense if they do something at quarterback, which they more than likely will. So Jakobi Meyers, to me, feels like a great, value pick here, like a low risk, high reward value pick that you can get almost around pick 100. And then finally, I talked about Michael Pittman on the top 10 must-have. I just can't believe Michael Pittman is going this low. Pick 107, wide receiver 51. Now, I understand Michael Pittman was an absolute bust last year, one of the worst early round picks you could have made. But let's not forget, just 2 years ago, this guy was really good for fantasy. And even last year with being a bust, if you had taken him at pick 107, okay, sure, you're not looking back on that pick and being like, that pick won me my league. But you're also probably not upset with that pick. Michael Pittman still had good weeks. He still scored touchdowns. He still had an okay amount of upside. But now you're getting him at such a discount here that if he rebounds back to what we saw in 2023, anything close to that, this is going to be one of the best picks anybody makes in 2025 fantasy football drafts. Now, I know he's dealing with this back injury, but sounds like he'll be good to go for camp, fully healthy. And again, we got to remember, last year he was dealing with this back injury, not even close to 100%. A healthy Michael Pittman is still a good wide receiver. Maybe he's not an elite wide receiver, but he's still a talented, good wide receiver. He's still the number 1 wide receiver in this offense. Yes, there are some quarterback questions with Anthony Richardson, whoever the quarterback is, but again, this is such a value for Michael Pittman that the risk is worth it for the potential reward here. This is a guy, again, if he does anything close to what he did in 2023, we're going to look back and say that was one of the best picks you could have made in fantasy football. Why not gamble on him in 2025? Worst case, if he busts, you drop him and move on. So those are the 5 best wide receiver values in drafts, but if you missed the 5 best running back values in drafts, you can check that one out right here.